Hello everyone, my name is Mujtaba. This is my submission for the CodeChef Creator Contest. Uh, what I'm going to do is explain my approach for a problem that I recently solved on CodeChef. I have selected this problem because it involves the decomposing the problem into something much simpler and then applying certain techniques in the right manner to reach the answer. I find this question very elegant. As you can see, the problem statement is pretty short and straightforward. Let's get started. We are given a rooted tree with n vertices with 1 as root vertex, and we need to find this value s. S is equal to summation f of x, where x is from 1 to n, and here f of x is the sum of values of all vertices in the subtree of x whose values are strictly less than the value at vertex x. Now this sounds like a tongue twister, but uh, it'll become pretty clear once we view the sample input and output. Uh, up- Before that, what I would like to mention is that for each vertex, we have two values associated. One is the number of that vertex, which would mean the vertex are numbered from 1 to n. Vertices are numbered from 1 to n. And the other thing that is associated is we have this array in the end. Um, Basically, each vertex has a particular value associated with it. So the value at vertex 1 will have 8, the value at vertex 2 will be 7, the value at vertex 3 will be 6, and so on. uh, okay, coming to the sample input now. I have pasted the structure of the tree formed by the sample input on the lower left corner over here, and also s, the value s. First of all, before anything else, let's simplify S. It seems uh, it seems that it's summation of f of x, but what is f of x basically? So we could simplify this by denoting it as a double summation of this value, as you will see here, of basically the value array that we have, 8 7 6 7 10 8 in the sample. That's basically the values associated with each vertex. So yeah, so so it would be some double summation val j, and we would also set the limits here. um, J belongs to, I'm using capital E for the mathematical symbol belongs to, J belongs to a subtree of I, and that is the logical and value of j is strictly less than value at I. Okay, and also I would go from 1 all the way to n. So basically we have to calculate this for each vertex numbered from 1 to n, that is 1 2 3 4 5 and 6. So first of all, I'll just write down the values associated with each node just beside each node. Okay, so the value at node 1 is 8, the value at node 6 is 8 again, the value at node 5 is 10, the value at node 2 is 7, the value at, okay, 7, the value at node 4 is again 7. um, the value at node 3, as you can see, the sample input, it is 6. So okay, yeah. We need to find out the value of f of x from 1 to n, and this can be simplified into this double summation. So let's just calculate for one node at a time first. So what would be the value of f of 1? The value of f of 1 would be equal to sum of values which are strictly less than 8 and present in the subtree of 1. So that would be 6, 7 and 7. So that would be 6 plus 7, that is equal to 20. Okay. What is the value of f of 2? The value of f of 2, as we can see, 2 is a leaf node, and so uh, it will have 0 contribution and it would be 0. F of 3 would be equal to f of 3 again would be equal to 0, because as you can see the value associated is 6, but the numbers in the subtree of 3 are 6, 7 and 7, and none of these are strictly lesser than lesser than 6. So f of 3 was also 0. F of 4 would be 0 again because it's a leaf node. F of 5, 5 again being a leaf node would be 0. And f of 2, okay, we already calculated f of 2. F of 6, f of 6, the value of f of 6 is, uh, let's see, the value associated at 6 is 8, and in its subtree we are having 7, 7, 10, 6 and 8. The values strictly lesser than 8 are 6, 7 and 7 again. So that would be 6, 7, 6 plus 7 plus 7. Again that would come out to be 20. Then if we take the total sum, which is the answer that we want, basically the value of s total is equal to s is equal to 40. So the answer to the sample input would be 40. Yeah. Okay. So how do we approach this question? First of all, it's something related to subtrees. So you could wonder, let's approach this question using dynamic programming on trees or something like that. But we can't use DP for this question because let's say we want the value of we want the value of vertex 6 from, and we'll get the value of we try if we try to get the value of f of 6 from let's say 3 and 5, so it becomes difficult because uh, as you can see, like the values at these nodes are all different. So maybe as you can see, 6 doesn't have 7 and 7 as its answer, but 8 apparently has. So using that approach might not be feasible. Maybe we could try doing a depth first traversal. I hope you are well versed with DFS. So if suppose we start DFS, like for each node we would start DFS. Suppose we want to calculate the answer for node 6. So let's say for node 6 we want to calculate the answer, so we start DFS at 6. So value is 8, so we will take sum of all those values which are strictly less than 8. So we'll visit its children, that is 3, 4, 2, 4 and 5, and then we'll add 6, 7 and 7, and then we get answer at 6 as 20. And then similarly we start DFS at 1 and visit all the children present. So visit its children and so on and so forth, basically visiting all the nodes that are in its subtree, and we would again end up with 20. But in this approach we are doing performing a DFS n times for the n vertices, and the complexity um, the of DFS would be O of n again. So if so n times we do something that has O of n time complexity, so that would come out to be big O of n square, and O of n square is not feasible in this question because the value of n is up to 10 to the power 2 into 10 to the power 5, so O of n square would obviously time out. So we need something faster than that. So now I'm going to discuss how to like think, how to the thought process. My thought process behind this question would be like whenever like I like to call this process as problem decomposition, and often it comes out to be helpful. So sometimes there are problems about two-dimensional arrays and they seem to be pretty complicated, but then if we then what I do is I take a small example as my input, and I take a 1D array and try to solve the given problem for the 1D array, and then I try to extrapolate or extend my idea to the 2D array, and more often than not it results in AC, basically extending our simpler ideas uh, into the larger counterparts. So for 2D array, what I did was I used a 1D array, and then I tried to solve the same problem for a 2D array, from 1D to 2D. So what can I do for this tree? uh, I could start by considering a very simple tree, maybe one which is linear, right? I could consider a tree which is linear, which has in which either it has exactly one child, or it is the leaf node. So I'll just connect the tree, n edges, n vertices and n minus 1 edges. So it seems to look like a linked list, or it looks like an array. So this is something really familiar. So I would start to number my nodes as well. Okay, and let's assign some values to each of these n6 nodes. So let's say value at 1 is 2, value at 2 is, let's say it's 8, value at 3 is 9, the value at 4, let's say, is 6, the value at 5, let's say it is 2, and let's say the value at 6 is 3. So suppose I want to calculate f of 4 here, in the right tree to the right. Suppose I want to calculate f of 4. So I would suppose I started DFS from 4. I would visit 5 and 6, and both of them have values strictly lesser than 6, so that would be 2 plus 3, that would be 5. But thing is, I could keep doing a DFS like this for n nodes again over here, and then result in O of n square complexity. Or I could say represent this tree as an array, because anyways it's linear, so I can represent it as an array, and then like each node would have its own index in the array, and then to find some for this type of linear tree, I would just have to find, for to find f of x, I would just need to find the sum of values strictly less than value of x, basically sum of values to the right of x that are strictly um, less than value at x. This problem can be solved easily, right? For like we can do this again, we can do this thing in O of n square very easily, but then uh, there wouldn't be any difference between doing a depth first traversal on each of the end nodes and resulting in n square complexity, or even for this example, just traversing it like an array and getting the answer for each node. Again, that its complexity would be, for each node you're calculating the answer separately, and um, and then you're traversing a subarray from L to R, let's say, whose worst case size is n. So and then so you would again end up with O of n square complexity anyways. So then there wouldn't be much of a point, right? So we need to do something better. What apparently there is a well-known method to find value of f of x in logarithmic time. It's known as offline pre-processing. You can easily find its articles on the internet. It's called offline pre-processing, and basically it involves the use of binary index trees or a segment tree or a merge sort tree to calculate the value of f of x in logarithmic time using offline queries. It's a very good approach, but then the thing is we can do that in logarithmic time provided the our tree is linear. It looks like an array, but that's not the case. As you can see in the sample test case, the tree seems to have, certain nodes have multiple childs, certain nodes have no child at all, which are the leaf nodes, and a single node is a root node. So how would we approach it in that case? So now I'm going to make a very bold claim. So I can solve the problem for this linear array. So linear tree, sorry. So I make a very bold claim that can I somehow represent my tree in a structure similar to that of the tree to the right? Can I do that? The question is, and then I I know what apparently there is a method for that also. Like it's well known, and it's very straightforward. Like if you haven't heard of it, when you actually understand, your reaction might be like, this was pretty obvious. So there is a method to convert this structure on the left to a similar structure to that on the right, using a method known as tree flattening. It's You can like search for that also. It's very simple. So now I'm going to explain tree flattening. Oh yeah, before that I would like to mention that so now we have completely understood our approach. What what exactly this question is asking us for. This question is basically asking us to first do some tree flattening to convert this tree into a linearized structure, and then after that they're asking us to do some offline queries. So really two really good methods coming together to solve this problem. So yeah, tree flattening. I'll paste some code over here. This is the code from the solution itself. So I'll be pasting the DFS function so that it becomes easy to understand. Um, because we will be doing a dry run now. So I would suggest to take a look on the right as well as we do a dry run. So for flattening the array, what I would do is I would start a DFS from the root node. Basically, I would call DFS1 first of all. So somewhere in main, I called DFS1. So I would start my traversal here, and all I am doing it is is a very small computation. I'm calculating the in time. This is a very important, I would say, very important term. I'm calculating the in time of nodes in DFS. This concept comes in other algorithms as well, like LCA. Yeah, we are going to use it here as well. We will record the in time of the nodes in DFS in an array, and then I'll explain what will be done further. So first let's do a DFS from 1 and store the in time in this array over here below the tree. Okay, so suppose now we are at 1, we have started DFS. So if you look at the pseudocode, as soon as as 1 is visited, its in time is calculated and stored in an vector called as IND, vector or array you can call it, in IND. So IND of 1 is 1. it's a pre-increment. So, and initially our this global variable is 0. So IND of 1 would become 1. Then we would visit 6. That is the second visited uh, vertex. So it's store it over here. 6. After that, suppose we then the DFS visits 5. So 5 becomes the third vertex that is visited. So we store the in times in this array IND, and then we paste them here basically. So the then we visit after 5, come backtrack to 6, and then from 6 we will visit 3. 3 is visited, and after that let's say we visit 4, and then in the end we end up visiting 2. So the DFS is done. Now we have visited all the 6 nodes, and as you can see, 2 was the node which we visited at the end, and it's at vertex 6. So these are basically the index of this array is basically the time taken. So like our DFS took O of n time, that is not exactly O of n, it's actually O of e plus v. But then we visited 6 node, 6 no 6 vertices. So like the total, like if we record that in time, so the in time at 1 we visited 1, then at 2 t is equal to 2 we visited 6, then at t is equal to 3 we visited 5, t is equal to 4 we visited 3, so on and so forth. So we get this kind of representation over here. But then you might ask, how is this relevant, how is this related to the linearized structure that I had made over here? Actually this is the linearized structure. Just like that, you'll just see. uh, I would now like to draw your attention towards this array SUB. I have done nothing in SUB. It just represents the size of subtree of a given if a given vertex. So SUB of 6 would be 1 2 3 4 5. That would be 5. Subtree size of 1 would be 6, as is the root node. So it would have the entire set of vertices in its subtree. 5, 2 and 4 being leaf nodes would only have subtree size SUB as 1. 5, 2 and 7, 5, 2 and 4 being leaf nodes that would have size as 1. 3 would have a subtree size of 3. So now I have after performing DFS, I have two arrays. I have SUB of some x is equal to SUB of x is equal to subtree size, and also I have INDX, that is the in time. So now comes the magical part. Like suppose I'm at vertex 3. Suppose I'm at vertex 3 right now. So let's say I'm at vertex 3 here. So what is the uh, what is the in time of vertex 3? The in time of vertex 3 is 4. You can see 4. So in time is 4. Yeah, in time is 4. So the in time of 3 is equal to 4. Also the subtree size of 3 is equal to 3. What is the what is sub 3 size of 3 minus 1? That's pretty simple. It's 2, right? So what am I supposed to do with that 2? Just take a look here. This is the we have 3 at time is equal to 4, uh, and then if we consider the two positions immediately after 3, if you observe, the two positions immediately after 3 are 2 and 4, and in our DFS traversal 2 and 4 were in the subtree of 3. Apart from 3, we also had 2 and 4 in it in the subtree. Let's look at 6 for now. Let's look at 6, right? Let's look at 6. What is um, what is in time of 6? In time of 6 is 2, right? It was the second visited. We started from DFS, started the DFS at 1, and we visited 6 at t is equal to 2. So IND 6 is equal to 2. And what is subtree size? Subtree size is 6. Subtree size 6, subtree size of 6, sorry, subtree size of 6 is 5. Now what is SUB of 6 minus 1? That's a very simple question. That is 4. But what's so special about 4? Apparently, if you observe the next 4 elements after after 6, 2, 4, 3, 5, these 2, 4, 3, 5 are in the subtree of 6, the next 4 elements. So now we have this structure. uh, Somehow we have represented the entire tree using this representation, using this representation that we can achieve from these two values. We perform a DFS to store these two values for each vertex, and from that we can easily get this. And from uh, and once we construct this array, we can find out all the range for L comma R. We can get a range L comma R. So for each vertex X from this array that we construct, we can get L comma R. We can get L comma R such that uh, such that all the uh, all the vertex in between, like like all the j uh, all the vertices j between L comma R would be a subtree, would belong to subtree of this X, would be a subset. Mathematically we could represent it like that. So yeah, we could say that we would from this array we could get a range L comma R, using these two as well, to get uh, a, a range a subarray range between which all those elements are in the subtree of the given vertex. So now if we know these two values L comma R, we could use that linearized approach with that which I had talked about. Like in that approach um, we were doing something like uh, okay, this is bad. We were doing something like um, suppose we are calculating for the second node. So we used to visit all the nodes from 3 to n, right? And 3 to n apparent 3 to 4, sorry, yeah, like n is equal to 4 here. So we were visiting from like basically this vertex 2, 2 plus 1, 3, 3 to the end. We used to visit and check if there is any value which is strictly lesser than the value at 2, and we used to take a sum. So we used to do that up until n. Here basically we are having L comma R. We are having this subsegment between which uh, all those values come in the subtree of X. So basically we have this structure in 1D structure in which any of the children of a given vertex will always come immediately after the given vertex. So now we can use that offline pre-processing method on this array. What we could do is we could either construct a segment tree or a binary index tree on this array that we have generated. We could construct a binary index tree and process those queries in logarithmic time and then get our answer. So now the question arises, how are we gonna do offline queries? It might be a new concept to you all, to you. So I'm going to explain that now. Okay, it seems those values got erased by mistake. I'll enter them again. One, 6, 5, 3, 4, 2. Yeah. Okay. So I'll be explaining the offline queries using a binary index tree, but uh, it's up to the pro user. They could use merge sort tree or segment tree as well. But the binary index tree approach is uh, to an extent intuitive also, because at the end a binary index tree is like a partial sum array, something like that, and our queries are going to be of that sort. So we can calculate very efficiently using this method. Okay, so you can represent a binary index tree in an array. So now and initially, um, we would initialize all the values to 0, and then we would do our queries and take a sum of those queries and print the sum, because that is the value of s at the end, right? So initially it's all 0, and yeah, also let me write the indices as well. This is okay, 0 based 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Actually, we won't need those many indexes. Will never access those access those higher indices. Okay, whatever. So the problem is that suppose if we just go through the this array and simply this array on in below the tree, if we just iterate from 1 to n and just do a do a update on all those positions, and then just if we just take a sum between l comma r uh, for each vertex, that subsegment which is having the subtree vertices. The problem is we might end up taking some of those values which might be greater than and equal to the value at the particular vertex x. That might end up happening. So using a binary index tree, what can we do? We can get sum between l comma r. So what if when we are querying for l comma r for a what if for a given x, x, we calculate some l comma r, and at the time of querying at the time of querying all those values which are uh, which are greater than or equal to val at x are not present in our bit, and all values strictly lesser are present. That would basically mean that suppose we are querying for 8, let's say value at 6 is 8, so we are querying for this node 8. So at the time of querying we shouldn't have 10, that is basically uh, the node 5. We shouldn't have 10 at position 4. No, not sorry, not position 4. We can't have 10 at position number 3. We can't have 10 here. It has to be value at 3. Value at 3 has to be 0 when we are querying for L comma r for vertex 6. This is because 10 is greater than or equal to 8. So all those values which are greater than or equal to 8 shouldn't be present, and all those values which are strictly lesser than 8 must be present. So that would mean the nodes associated with 6, 7 and 7 would be present when we are querying for 6. So essentially mean that um, that would essentially mean that at in times of 3, 4 and 2, which is 6, 5 and 3. So uh, the value at The value at 3 would be 6 at the time of querying for that. And okay, wait, the in time of 3 is 4. Sorry. The in time of 3 is 4. So when we are querying for this index 8, the values which are strictly lesser, that is 6, 7, and 7, that's 2, 3, and 4. So the in time of 3 is 4. So at 4 we should have 6, and at 2 and 4, 2 and 4, their in times are 5 and 6. So at 5 and 6 we should have 7 and 7. So then when we'll send a sum query between L comma R, that is basically for vertex 6, uh, it is 3 comma uh, for vertex 6 it is basically um, it is basically 3 comma 6, right? Because what is size of subtree of 6? It is 5. What is 5 minus 1? 4. What's so special about 4? If we look at the values immediately after 6, it's 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are in its subtree, and we want value exact 0 at 3 because it's strictly greater, so that won't come into the sum. But then 6, 7, and 7 being strictly lesser will enter into the sum, and we would get f of 6 as 20, which is what we wanted. Similarly, if we query for 1, if we look at it, um, we don't want we don't want 10 to be present, we don't want 8 to be present, because 8 again is greater than or equal to 8, right? It's equal to 8, so we don't want 8 or 10 present. Again, only 6, 7, and 7 would be present when we are querying for 1. And the range of query for 1 is from 2 to 6. Sum of from 2 to 6 would be again 20 here, so we would get 20 plus 20, 40. Thing is, you have to process these queries in the right order so as to achieve this, like we have to process them in an order in this so that it follows this rule. Initially all values are 0. I want to process my queries such that this rule is followed. If you think about it, you could pause this and think about it, but yeah, um, it's pretty obvious. We'd have to process the queries in the ascending order of values. What this basically means is, first and foremost, we should process the query for 6, and then before querying for 6, all those values which are strictly less than 6 have to be updated in the BIT, and then we query for 6, and then we move ahead. Then we come at we come at 7. 7 is just the next element to 6. So now we would query for 2 and 4. So now we are querying for 7, but we don't all those we want all those vertices which are less than strictly lesser to be present in the BIT. So what is strictly lesser than 7? 6 is strictly lesser than 7, so we would send our updates. Basically. So that would be the update at 7 would be update before querying for 7, we would update the value 3. In time of 3 is 4, so in time of 3 is 4, so at the position 4 I would update 6. But then the thing is that as these are leaf nodes, so there won't 7 is on the leaf, so there won't be any update at all. There won't be any contribution, sorry, there won't be any contribution to the final answer as there are leaf nodes. Then we reach 8. We process the queries one by one in increasing order. For 8 we have 1 and 6. So when we are querying, let's say now we query for 6, so we have these queries sorted in an array. So now we reach this index, which is basically value 8. So it comes out that we are querying for 6. So before we query for 8, we have to add all those values which are strictly less than 8. So 6 is already there, but 7 is it wasn't there. So in the in times of 2 and 4 are 5 and 6. So we would do an update 7, 7, 7. Okay. So now those values are also updated. Now now those values are updated. So now the subtree size would L comma R would be from 3 to 6, right? Again, so we'll take sum from 3 to 6, and again we would get 20. Similarly for f of for 1 we would get L comma R as 2 to 6, and before 1 there are no other elements which are strictly less than 8, so again it will be a sum from, like, it will be a sum from 2 to 6, and again it will come out to be 20, and then the total comes out to be 40. So in this manner, and then once we are done querying, yeah, so once we are done querying, so suppose we also yeah, there is still one node left. There is 5 is left. We didn't, because it's the largest value. It comes at the end. So before querying for 10, you would see the value is just strictly lesser than um, 10. So that would be 8 hasn't been updated. So 8 is present at first location. We'll do a update here, and it's also not present on the in time of 6, that is 2. So yeah, then we would query, but then it's a leaf node, so we wouldn't actually query for the leaf node, because uh, because the range come is ambiguous, like L comes out to be bigger than R following our formula. We could find the subsegment for which we have to query using this method. Like we could say that L is equal to IND of X plus 1, our given node X. R would be IND X plus, okay, wait, plus subtree size of X minus 1. We would get our L comma R like this, but then in a leaf node SUBX is 1 itself, and then if we calculate for a leaf node, L is equal, what happens is L becomes equal to R plus 1, L greater than R. That we can't query a BIT for L greater than R, obviously, so we just like don't add anything to our answer and move ahead. um, so in that manner we query the BIT and get our answer. As you can see, we uh, took a sum from 6 plus 7 plus 7 two times, and it came out to be 40. So let me summarize this at the end. What we did is we did a DFS traversal. Okay, so let's do a small summary now. uh, we did a DFS traversal by which we got a flattened tree. Then we took a BIT. Yeah, and before that, we sorted our queries in ascending order. Sorted Q R in ascending order, because that is really important for this to work. Otherwise, we would get wrong answer. And then we queried on the bit. So and this gave us, and then we would take sum of f of x for all x uh, from 1 to n, and we would get our answer. That would be 20 plus 20, that's 40. So in short, we just did a DFS to flatten the tree, and then did offline queries to uh, get the sum between L and R following this particular rule. Okay, so this was the high level approach, uh, how I would like approach this question. But now I'm going to explain the code. It won't take much time. So yeah, the code, I have it prepared here. Okay, so it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward in the start. Like we take the input, simple input. We took the n minus 1 edges here as input. Adjacency, we took we inserted it into the adjacency list. Yeah, and then this is the value array. This is the value array, of course, and this is our value array. And then we did a DFS traversal. In the DFS traversal, we stored the int time and the size of subtrees. After that, we used two structs, because we are having queries, and we have multiple values associated with the query. We are having L, we are having R, we are having multiple values associated with the query. We are, for a given query, see struct query here, we are having L, we are having R, and we are having the value of x, that is val x. Basically, we took val x in array A over here. We took its input over here, value array. So we have the value associated we have L and R. Also we have the index at which it's present in the flattened array IDX. So we want all this information. Along with that, we want to sort the queries and then process those queries in sorted order. So you know instead of using something like vector of tuple int like multiple values, that would be very tedious. I just made a struct and defined an operator for the struct to like custom comparator, we call this, for sorting the values in ascending order. And we have sorted them, as you can see, in ascending order. And we have we have written the comparison function, and it only depends on k is basically this thing val x, the value at that particular node x for which we are querying. So we've made a struct query, something like this. Also we have another struct, although this was to an extent unnecessary, but yeah, it helped in the implementation. So uh, we have two values in this struct. It's just like a pair, but then it's having its custom comparator, again based on solely based on the values we are going to sort, irrespective of the index in the flattened tree. This is our bit, so for which we'll be querying. Okay, so yeah, and the as you can see, we have sorted the array of QR and AR. QR is our queries, and AR is the array values. Basically, uh, we will process the queries, and before each query, we will update we will update all those values which are less than value at X, and those updates will be done at this IDX. So we use this array for updates, and we use this for querying. This is for updates. This is a struct for updates, basically, we could say, in short. So we have sorted both of them, and then if it's a leaf node, then we don't do anything. If suppose it is a leaf node, we don't do anything. We just continue our loop from 1 to n in those queries, because if L is greater than equal to R, and you have calculated L and R using that formula in line 96 and 97. So if L is greater than equal to R, it's a leaf node, so we didn't do anything, we just continued. And otherwise, before querying, we ran this while loop, and here we updated value at idx, that is the value, the in time, that is basically our in time, that is our index at which the node is present, and the value of that node value. We did all those um, updates which were strictly lesser than the query node x, the value at query node x, that is val x. So here, like val less than val x, and also yeah, the index cur, it should be lesser than equal to n, obviously. So we kept updating and incrementing, and this would be amortized O of n. You might say that this outer loop is n, and then this is another loop that seems to be having length n, but then uh, but it isn't actually n squared. This while loop will have like approximately n iterations only in total. So it's amortized O of n, it's O of n. So this loop runs at most n iterations. Like the update would only be n times. So it isn't that each time we enter this for loop, this loop is running n times. It will run lesser than n times. So you could say the uh, total operations were n plus n, not n into n. So something like that, if you want to count the iterations, it's not n square. Let me be very clear. And this operation is basically log of n if you use a bit. So total complexity would be n log n. Okay, and then we calculate the queries here, which would be a simple partial sum query from sum from r l to r, basically using this. And then now we have the answer. We stored our answer in an answer array. Actually, this wasn't necessary. You could just add it to a final answer, but fine. And then we took a sum of these values, and then we printed that value, and that's it. Now let's just submit this on CodeChef for a sense of satisfaction that we have gone through the entire thing. Oh yeah. Okay, so it got accepted. It ran in 0.14 seconds, so that is very fast because we used binary index tree, so it's got good complexity. So we got a correct answer. So I think that is all about this question. I'm hoping to hear back from whoever went through this entire video. Thanks a lot for going through it, and I would really like to have some feedback as to how I approached this question and how I explained and whether or not it was clear. I would really like to know. So I hope to hear back from you guys, and thanks a lot for watching, and that's it. Bye.